Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Teacher Support Network podcast. I'm your host, Anton McCoy, and today we're going to dive into a topic every teacher can relate to, and it's how to be more productive throughout the school day. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever gotten to the end of a school day and felt like you didn't get anything done because there was so many things left undone or incomplete? Well, today I'm going to discuss and be sharing 5 actionable ways to be more productive throughout the school day so you can feel more in control and less stressed and overwhelmed. But first, I want to look at 2 kind of mindset shifts before I talking about these strategies, because I think it's going to really help us make the strategies more effective. So the first shift in the way we think in our mindset should be focus on what you can control. You cannot control everything in your schedule and day, but the parts that you can, I want you to focus on that. So first, focus on what you can control. And then the second thing that's closely related to it is be intentional. Use the time that you have control over and be intentional with how you use it. Like many times, we might have some times, but we don't have a focused plan for that time, and so we waste it, and then we don't get it back. So I want you to be really intentional in how you use your times that you do have control over, and that could be like your prep periods and things like that. So after focusing on what you can control and being intentional, let's talk about the first strategy to have a more productive teaching day. So that first strategy is plan your day. Why does this matter? Because sometimes we go into our teaching day without a plan, and they say failing to plan is planning to fail. And a great day starts with a solid plan. Without it, you're always reacting instead of being proactive and responding. So take control of your day by having a schedule that you follow for that particular day. And it can change for different days depending on your teaching schedule. As teachers, many parts of our day are already scheduled because we have teaching classes, but other parts can have some flexibility, such as what we do during our prep times, which I talked about earlier, or if you're a sped teacher, sometimes you might have some consultation times with students. So I really want you to think about that, and I want to give some specific things you can do to help you plan your day. So here's some specific kind of tips to really consider. So when you get into your classroom at the beginning of the day, before you start, doing stuff, take 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of that day, sit at your desk, drink your coffee, whatever it might be, and identify your top 3 realistic priorities for the day and jot them down in a planner, a notebook, or a journal. And when you think of these priorities, I want you to ask yourself this question. What are the top 3 tasks that if I accomplished it today, I would feel like I had a successful teaching day? The key is to be really realistic. So if you're a gen ed teacher and you say one of your top priorities is grading student writing samples or essays from an assignment you gave, grading the writing samples for all of your students may be a bit much, and you could be setting yourself up for some disappointment. But a more realistic priority task may be to grade 5 to 7 student writing samples or essays for that day. And if you get more done, boom, that's a bonus. Let's say if you're a sped teacher listening in, and you might want to complete writing the whole IEP for an upcoming meeting as one of your top priorities. But that may not be possible with the time you have, because it takes time to write an IEP, an effective IEP. So instead, consider writing the present level section of the IEP, or just the annual goals as that priority for the day. And then if you're able to get more done, fine, that's a bonus. But at least you got the part that you prioritize for that day completed. The point I'm trying to make is this. You get to control what success looks like for you on each given day. And it's not always, it has to be based on what other people or outside circumstances determine for you. You know yourself in the seasons of life better than anyone else, so you know what's reasonable and realistic for you as that measure. And always be open, as I say this, always be open to make adjustments to what you can get done in a particular day. I'm guilty of this. I often need to give myself some grace and adjust my expectations for what I can accomplish on any given day because I always think I can accomplish more. And I'm sure some of you listening to this are the same. So one key takeaway that I want you to do and consider is set aside 10 minutes when you get to school. And like I said, identify those priority tasks. I say 3, is a good number, and plan out your day based upon them. Let's see what results you get from that and how it makes you feel at the end of the day. So after planning your day, the second strategy to have a more efficient and productive teaching day would be task batching, TASK, task batching. And when we think about task batching, task batching really eliminates jumping from one task to another, or, task switching as it's called, which, research shows this doesn't really increase your productivity. It can actually take away from it and make you less focused. So let's think about some tasks that you do throughout the day that may be some of your priority tasks that you can batch. So you can batch grading. Instead of grading one assignment here and there, pick a time to grade an entire stack of papers. Another area you can batch is you can batch returning phone calls to parents rather than doing it at random times here and there. You can batch reading and responding to emails rather than immediately, and I'm guilty of this, when you hear that ding in your inbox and you respond to it. So you may be working on something else, and then all of a sudden you hear that and you go check it, and then it just takes you off course. So, but if you batch your reading and emails at a certain time, that can really help you be more effective in terms of maximizing that time. You can batch lesson planning. You can batch the prepping for the materials for the lesson plans that you've already written. If you're a SPED teacher, you can batch IEP writing and completing certain sections like we talked about earlier. Because it's hard to get back to writing, for instance, like quality annual goals for a student if you're multitasking or you're constantly being interrupted. So I would say one key takeaway for this would be, an actual takeaway would be, identify tasks that you can batch this week and then block out time in your schedule to complete the task. So let's say you may have 30-minute prep. You might have a 30-minute prep. Some of you might have more, but let's say I'm going to say 30 minutes as an example. So you can decide for 15 minutes, I'm going to check and respond to my email. So during that 15-minute time, that's what you're doing. All you're doing is checking emails and responding to emails. And then if you have that other 15 minutes, you might say, you know what? I'm going to take this last 15 minutes of my prep and I'm going to grade a few student papers, for example. But you see, you're not going back and forth between checking emails, grading student papers, which can just get you unfocused, okay? But remember, it's your teaching practice and you decide what you do with your prep time. Just be intentional so you can maximize the time, and task batching is one way to do that. So moving on to strategy number 3 to have a more productive teaching day. And this one is prioritize important relationships. So what do I mean by prioritize important relationships? Well, we all know that building relationships with your students, parents, and colleagues is extremely important. And it's the foundation of everything you do as a SPED teacher. Or not just a SPED teacher, but as a gen ed teacher or just an educator in general. However, each day there are specific people that you serve that may need extra care, connection, and attention based upon their individual circumstances or needs. These specific relationships with students, parents, related service providers, and so forth are the ones that you want to make these intentional connections with before you leave your school day. And what do I mean by that? So ask yourself this question: who are the top 2 to 3 people I need to intentionally connect with today before I leave and go home? And that could be a student who has a difficult day, who has had a difficult day that day. It could be a parent that has been calling with a concern about their child. It could be a colleague or an administrator that you need to collaborate with to get some support from. The key thing here is try your best to connect with those people who you've identified as being the priority for that day. And if you have time, you can always connect with others on your list, because we always have people that we need to get back to and things like that. But sometimes we can't get to them throughout the day. And sometimes we feel like defeated when we say, oh, I have so much to do. But if you identify those 2 or 3 people who if I connect with them today, that will be a big win. That's what this strategy is for. So you get to decide who to prioritize for those relationships each and every day. So now we're moving on to strategy 4, which is how can we have a more productive day in the classroom and during the teaching day? Well, strategy number 4 is boost your energy. And why is this critical? Because it's difficult to be productive if you're running on empty, especially as you get to the end of the day. So some practical ways to really boost your energy would be staying hydrated by drinking water throughout the day, eating breakfast in the morning, taking your lunch. This is bad for me. I would always feel drained by the end of the day, but a lot of times I was always trying to do stuff on my lunch and I didn't eat, thinking that would be helpful, but it really wasn't, because I didn't have the energy to really get through the day. Another tip is to have healthy snacking like fruits and nuts and, things like that you can eat throughout the day or in between classes. Try healthy energy drinks that don't give you a high, but then make you crash. So that's why the key word is healthy here, if you're going to be drinking energy drinks. And another thing is do 5 to 10 minute movement breaks between classes, like walking or stretching. You could be walking outside on the track if your school has one. It could be around the block if you're in a city, you don't really have a track outside the school. Or it could be just walking around the gym, for instance, to get some movement in. The key thing is you get to decide what works for you and based off your circumstances. So that's another way to have a more productive day, because you are boosting your energy. And our last strategy number 5 to have a more productive teaching day is, once you've planned your day, you've batched tasks, you've prioritized those important relationships, and you've gotten to them and connected with them, and you've done some things to boost your energy, now it's the end of the day. Just don't run out and go home, which you want to do, we all want to do. Evaluate your day. That's strategy number 5. Evaluating your day is super important. Pausing to review your day is extremely important. It allows you to celebrate the best parts of your day, reflect on the challenging parts, and just examine how you might reset and approach the next day for similar or better results. So here's some key ways to do that, or suggestions. I would say, just like at the beginning of the day, you set 5 to 10 minutes to plan your day. Before you leave, set 5 or 10 minutes at the end of your day, just like you did at the beginning, and jot down in your planner, your journal, or notebook one thing that went well for the day. What was one win? Was it with your students? What was it with another responsibility that you had as in your teaching day? But what was something that you found to be a success? Not only will you feel good leaving the day, but also it's important to celebrate our successes, because we always, sometimes as teachers, we're really critical and hard on ourselves. So after you say what's one thing that went well, jot down one thing to improve your day, because there might have been a challenge, you know what I mean? So what was one way you could probably improve your day? So that helps you think about what to do differently maybe tomorrow or the next day. And then before you leave, while it's fresh in your head, write down your top 2 to 3 priorities for the next day. Not only will that give you a head start in pre-planning, but it would also make it easier the next day when you sit down to plan your day again. So, to summarize the 5 ways to have a more productive teaching day: number 1, plan your day. 2, batch your task. 3, prioritize important relationships for that day. 4, boost your energy. And 5, evaluate your day. And if you use these 5 productivity strategies to help you maximize your time and focus, it's really gonna, I feel like, make a difference in how you are able to maximize your time throughout the day. And as you rinse and repeat these 5 efficiency hacks, I hope you feel more empowered, effective, and in control of your school day, which sometimes we don't always get to feel that way. And hopefully it will reduce some of the stress and overwhelm you may feel in that process. I know it's hard and it's challenging to get through our school day and feel productive, but you got this. And I believe that trying some of these strategies will be really helpful. So in closing, like I said, I encourage you to try one or all of these productivity strategies from this episode. So let me ask you a question. Which one will you start with or add to your teaching practice? Let me know which ones and how it works out for you by leaving a comment at the bottom of the show notes page for this episode. And also on the show notes page, you also find the link to my newsletter to stay updated on the latest episodes and resources while receiving a weekly dose of practical strategies, tips, and inspiration to support you on your teaching journey. Okay, that's it for today. I know I gave you a lot, but I really wanted you to do to have these strategies because for us to do the best work we can with our students, we need to feel like we can have some ways to really maximize the productivity of our day so we can get everything done because teachers have a lot to do. And so if you found this episode helpful or you know anyone who could benefit from the message, please share with a fellow teacher. Until next time, like always, take care of yourself. Bye.